So should you buy a cheap EV? So if you've got overnight charging at home and you don't do many miles, then a 10-year-old EV could be a very, very cheap motor car. Talking about charging this thing up over a 4-hour period overnight at 9p per kilowatt hour means basically you can charge this thing up for about £2 a night. The range on it is going to be the interesting bit, right? You can really only get anything that's about 10 years old, this older generation. Really the range is going to be sort of, I think for Nissan Leafs you're down around about the 50-mile mark. For the Zoes you may get up to about 70 miles of range for them. But it's kind of dependent, right? It depends how many miles it's done, how much what sort of a hard life it's had, that kind of thing. And obviously the problem with them is if they go wrong, right? Like anything else, but with EVs especially, you need specialist garages to be able to repair them. And although there are a lot more of them around nowadays that have got the experience to be able to deal with cars like this, parts are expensive. There are less parts on an EV than on an internal combustion engine, so there's less to go wrong. But the problem is when it goes wrong, you typically need a computer science type person as opposed to a mechanical engineer person. Unfortunately, in garages tend to be folks that are better with a spanner than a keyboard. Though I'm probably overstating that, right? But whatever. So a Zoe like this that's got 20-odd thousand miles on it, had a very, very easy life until someone parked it into the back of something. Is a perfect little car, right? It's got 98% battery health. It cost me 600 odd pounds, maybe £1,000 to repair it. It's a cheap car. So what's it like to drive? I guess, I mean, look, it's a relatively cheap car, right? The interior is pretty plasticky, as you'd kind of expect. That said, it's nice, right? It looks pretty funky, the seats are nice, they're pretty comfy. I like the little trim details, the little Zoe thing in the little electrical pulse running through the roof and things like that. You know, as a driving experience, like all EVs, you've got that real low down torque from the offset, right? So it gets away pretty quickly. Look, I mean, you know, you're not buying these type of cars to go setting quarter miles, right? And you ain't gonna set one with this thing. It's great off the launch. Well, not great off the launch. It's not great off the launch, right? It pulls well. It pulls well to 30, 40. And then you just sit there where it slowly builds until you get to, I mean, its top speed on this thing's like 80 or something like that, right? But you know, it's comfortable. It's a little bit bouncy. You know, it's very similar to the little Fiesta that I had some time back. Similar sort of feel to it. Sort of you bounce and wobble around a little bit and all that kind of good stuff. So on a pull from standstill, here we go then, like foot flat to the floor. $30, $40, $50, and that's where we're at, national speed limit and all that. So, you know, it gets there pretty quick. It's nippy, right? It's nippy. It's nippy as you'd expect with an EV like this. Handling, yeah, I mean, it's got a lot of weight low down, right? So good thing there. That said, you actually feel as a driving position you are pretty high up. It's got that feel of a, I don't know, it's got that feel of more like, rather than the Fiesta where you're quite low down. I've got a big tractor coming, let me just get out of the way. There we go. Yeah, so rather than like the, there we go. Look. So rather than the Fiesta where you're sat sort of quite low down, you feel quite sat up in this thing. There's no height adjustment on the seat that I can find either, so it is what it is. And yeah. I'm flat to the floor there. Go on, little car. I've got to get back before my camera gets run over. Now, the problem is, with this one specifically, it's now got a problem, right? It now is not charging properly. Now, to diagnose that, Renault so far have took £500 from the previous owner to try and diagnose the issue, but still not got there with it. So what do, right? If Renault can't tell you what's wrong with it, and you've already spent 500 quid, and the car is only a couple of grand's worth of car, because this one's had an accident in the past, what are you going to do, right? It's just a pointless exercise. It's almost throwaway. So you're really taking a punt on cars like this. On paper, cheap motoring. Issues, maybe not cheap motoring anymore, right? If I get a year's worth of motoring out of this thing, happy days, you know, your quid's in, you're into it, right? You're into it a couple of grand, so worst case scenario, right? You'll stick it on eBay or something like that as spares or repair. You'll probably get 500 quid a grand for it for someone that wants it for parts. That'd be the logic, right? So you're not going to get something that's going to be tearing up the tarmac. You're not going to be getting something where you're getting amazing economy. You're definitely not going to be getting range, but what you will be getting is a cheap motor car for spinning around town and things like that. Happy days. So the problem with these older Renaults is the battery is not owned by the owner of the car in a lot of cases. A lot of these batteries are leased, and that can be a bit of a faff, right? Because if you want to scrap this car, you don't own the battery to be able to scrap it. So if you have problems with this car, like this one's got with a charger, to fix this could be a part that's worth, you know, a couple of £1,000 plus the labour. The car's basically a write-off, but the battery isn't yours to be able to write it off. So you've got to send it back to Renault, you've got to remove it, ship it. Renault want like a couple of grand more than that for this, and yeah, you're kind of stuck with it, right? It's all a bit shonky, to be honest. It's a bit ill thought through. It worked well when these cars were youthful. Now they're getting leggy. You know, Renault, to be honest, they don't want the batteries back. They can't replace them anyway. They've not got batteries to replace them with. So, you know, this is 12, 13, 15-year-old tech. So for me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of EVs. I don't think we've got the infrastructure in this country to deal with them, but there is a place for them. And if you're doing relatively short miles and you've got the ability to charge these things at home, then overnight tariff on Octopus Go or one of those kind of things makes this a really cheap motor car to run until it goes wrong. So this is where the problem with cheap electric cars comes. This thing. This is a Renault Fluence. I've got another video talking about specifically about this car. It's one I picked up from a salvage auction. Although the car itself isn't damaged, it drives fine. It works fine. There are no issues with it at all. The problem is it's got a warning light about the battery, because the battery is about 50% healthy. The problem is, at 50% healthy, it's still fine, right? It still gets, well, it's fine. When I say fine, what do you get? You get like 30 odd miles, maybe 50 miles at, you know, if you take it really, really gentle. So it's a usable vehicle. However, you need an MOT on it, right? And you've got error messages. Now, I don't know, MOT stations, engine management lights are an MOT fail. This hasn't got an engine management light. It's got a, yeah, check your electrical system, but, you know, I don't know. I don't know whether it will get through an MOT or not. If it goes through an MOT, it's a cheap enough car, right? I get it. I've had this thing up for sale now for a number of weeks for 500 quid, and nobody wants it. But nobody wants it because, let's face it, what are you going to do with it, right? I mean, it's pretty niche. For starters, if you come and get it from me, unless you live within 30 miles of my house, you've got to trailer the damn thing, or you've got to drive home via many, many charging spots, right? One every 30 miles or something like that. So there's the practicality side of things. Obviously, it's not got an MOT, so, you know, you're into, I wonder what else could be wrong with it. Now, being an electric car, obviously, there isn't much to go wrong with it. It's got brakes, and you know, they seem to work. They're in pretty good nick, so no issues there. I guess really You know, this is a relatively low mile car for its age. The interior looks lovely on it. It's kind of a faux leather interior. It's just a nice car. Practical, 4-door, boot. You know, it's got a great big battery in it. So, you know, whatever. So yeah, so what to do with these old EVs? If this was an internal combustion engine car, if this was a petrol or a diesel, this would absolutely be still on the road, running around, right? I mean, no question, this would be running around, especially having done 50,000 miles, right, or 60,000 miles. But having that battery tech in it, it's now basically fit for the scrapyard, right, or a very niche buyer. And you've got to wonder how many are around like that. So the green credentials, I don't know, really. I mean, it's a shame that this thing is basically fit for scrap when really it's got many miles left in everything but the battery, right? But, you know, what can you do? Let's look at it another way, right? This was the first, well, one of the first electric cars along with the Nissan Leaf in the UK. And so I guess what we could say is perhaps the newer cars, your Volkswagens, your Hyundais and things like that. I mean, they all come with 8-10 year battery warranties, right? I don't know. Maybe they will go for 20 years, right? Maybe we will see them on the road after 20 years or so, like a normal internal combustion engine car or a little diesel car would typically get to. For this though, I don't know. I think it's the end. And unless, I don't know, unless anybody wants this thing, hit me up if you do. I am going to pull the battery out of it and pull some bits off it and take it down to the scrapyard, which just seems such a waste, right? But there we go.